Plankton is one of the most important components of the marine food web. And today we're out here at an inlet collecting some plankton with an incoming tide and some pretty strong wind. An inlet brings in water at large volumes, so it's a really good place to pull a plankton tow. Now, our Plankton Net has what we call a cod end at the back end. That's what I'm screwing on. That's what's going to collect all of the plankton. The actual mesh is about 153 microns, so we're able to get down pretty decent in size and grab those little tiny critters. So here it is. The Plankton Net is going out into the water, and the current is going to hold it open as all the little planktonic organisms get caught up in the net. Now here we go. We're going to be taking the net back up, unscrewing the cod end, and pouring it into our collection container. So we've just pulled about 3 different pulls, and now I've got a bunch of plankton hanging out in this jar ready to be looked at. So it's time to go back in the lab. We're back in the lab, and I've got our plankton sample ready to go. So let's put it in this dish and we'll start to see what it is we've got. Before we jump in to look at what we've got in the bowl, let's just do a little bit of a review of what plankton really is. So plankton, as we know, are drifters. They essentially go with the flow in the ocean, right? Now there's 2 major types of plankton that we can look at: phytoplankton and zooplankton, often referred to as plant-like plankton and animal-like plankton, right? Now phytoplankton are autotrophs, which means they make their own food, which is really important, right? They go through photosynthesis. Now zooplankton, on the other hand, are heterotrophs, which means they have to consume other things. And in fact, a lot of them, zooplankton that is, feed on phytoplankton. Now, also zooplankton will often feed on each other too, the different species, as we go. So those are heterotrophs, right? Now, phytoplankton actually is responsible for 92% of the productivity in the ocean, which is huge. Pretty much the base of every marine food web is phytoplankton, right? Whereas zooplankton, of course, provide a lot of food for many organisms. They are filter feeders, go after them. Everything from big whales to even worms with little headdresses that pick out zooplankton, and coral that have little tentacles that pick out zooplankton in the water. Almost everything eats zooplankton. And then, of course, we can subdivide zooplankton into 2 major categories: holoplankton and meroplankton. Holoplankton is plankton its entire life, okay? We're talking about species that are specifically designed for the micro world. That's all they are. Meroplankton, however, those are your larvae forms of many of the animals you know. For example, larval fish are in the plankton for a while, as well as larval sea stars and urchins, octopus, pretty much anything, crabs, all of that. They are plankton for just a part of their life. So that's why we call them meroplankton. And of course, because they're heterotrophs, they fall under zooplankton as well. So that's sort of the lay of the land when it comes to plankton. Let's go ahead and get started. So I've got my slide and I got a little pipette. We're going to go into the bowl and select some plankton out. I'm going to put it right here on the slide and right in the microscope. Let's take a look and see what we got. That's a lot of plankton moving around. So we definitely have some stuff to look at here. But of course, we do want to do this systematically for your lab. So make sure that you follow the directions on your lab sheet and what's given to you by your instructor. And we're going to dive in and start surveying some of the very specific organisms that we are finding in this plankton tow. Remember to use the identification guide provided
to identify each of the organisms in the 6 slides.
So now that we've done the technical part, I'm going to show you a couple other things just for fun.
This strange creature is a larval form of a polychaete worm, and you can tell all the little bristles that are coming out of each of its individual segments. One day it'll probably grow up and live on the sea bottom, on the seafloor somewhere, crawling in and out of rocks and in the mud and soil. This is a little tiny juvenile crab. It's actually just metamorphosed from its complete larvae form to one that's about to settle out on the ocean bottom and start to grow into an adult crab. You can see it's very hyper, looking for little bits of food. This is what we call a velager larvae, which is essentially a juvenile larval snail. And it really has these cool little spinning tentacle discs at the opening of its beginning growing shell, which is really kind of neat to see. No idea what it'll grow into, but some sort of a mollusk. Now this is a hunter. It is a chaetognath, also known as an arrowworm, and it will go after things like copepods and other zooplankton community members.
I hope you got a better perspective of the microscopic world going on in the ocean. Until next time, keep learning.